Hi, I'm Tomi Mester from data36.com, and in this tutorial video, I will quickly show you how you can install PostgreSQL by yourself. It's really important that this solution will work on all major operating systems, so Mac, Windows, and Ubuntu for sure. I haven't tested it on a Chromebook, but who knows, maybe. The point is that I wanted to give you an SQL environment that you can use for learning and practicing, and I wanted to show you one that's the closest that we use in real-life data science projects. One more important comment before we get started. If you are a complete beginner, don't worry, I'll be very detailed. Just make sure that you follow everything very thoroughly. Also, I added a link in the description below where I listed all the commands and code snippets that I typed in this tutorial, so feel free to use that too. Anyways, let's see it. Okay, first thing first, just a little bit of theory. The thing is that we won't install PostgreSQL on your computer. We will use a remote data server that we will set up soon, and it will be pretty simple and pretty useful. Just as I said, this is what we do in real life, so it will be very similar to the servers that data scientists use in real life. How it works? It's really simply, you will use your computer to define your task. We will use SQL Workbench for that. So we will type in a command in SQL Workbench. We send the task via the internet to a remote server that we will build soon. And this remote server processes the task. This is where our actual PostgreSQL database will be located. And then it sends back the results to our computer, and SQL Workbench will display it. Now, the fact that we won't install SQL on our computer, but on a remote server, comes with a lot of advantages. For instance, it will be easier to automate things if you want to. It will be easier to scale things if you want to. It will be easier to access your server from multiple computers if you want to do that. And you don't have to install anything to your computer that could mess up your current infrastructure. The only downside of using a remote server is that, well, it will cost a few dollars per month, but for that you will be able to use my coupon code that I link below this video, and that will help you to use this server for free for a few months. Anyways, I really recommend that you set up a remote data server just as I do in this video and use that for practicing, and let's see how it's done. Okay, the first step is creating this data server. For that, I will use DigitalOcean. There are a lot of popular, cool alternatives out there, but I think that DigitalOcean is the easiest to get started with. So if you are an absolute beginner, I think you will like DigitalOcean. Anyways, as I said, if I use my coupon code, you will get $100 in coupon for 60 days. So for 2 months, you will be able to practically use this server for free. Just do the sign up process, but since I've already registered to DigitalOcean, I will click sign in. And I have a lot of projects and droplets already, but you will have to do the same thing that I do right now, which is creating a brand new droplet, which will be practically our remote server or cloud server. And there are quite a few settings and options here. Just make sure that you do exactly what I do. So follow me with this and do everything just as I do here. I will choose Ubuntu 18.04. I choose a plan. A shared CPU basic plan is fine, and the cheapest $5 per month solution is just fine for us. This is for practicing, so we don't need a very powerful machine. It's enough if you set up the cheapest one, and again, if you registered with my coupon code, you can use it in the next 2 months for free. You don't need to add block storage. You don't need to worry too much about this data center region either. It's practical if you choose a location that's close to you. So for me, since I'm in Hungary right now, I will choose, let's say, Frankfurt. VPC network, default is fine. You don't need any additional options right now. And for authentication, for now, we will use the less secure option, which is setting up a password. It's only because it's easier to set up this way, but if you are into security solutions, I recommend that you go with the SSH case. It's a bit more complicated to set it up. and I won't cover it in this tutorial, but it will be just fine with the password right now. So choose a password, make sure that it fits all the requirements, and let's finalize our droplet. One droplet, choose a host name. I will use SQL video tutorial for the name of this server. We don't need tags. This is the project where it goes. We don't need backups for now, and we can just create the droplet. So this is it. Again, it could be more secure, it could be more customized, but I will just use these basic settings. These will be just fine for us. Let's click Create Droplet. And in a few seconds, our remote droplet will be ready to use. This is your IP address. You will need this one. And I hope that you remember the password that you set up just a few seconds ago, because you will need that as well. Because the next step will be accessing this data server and setting up an actual PostgreSQL database on it. And again, there are several ways to get this done. I will go with the laziest way, or I would say the easiest way, so the easiest for you. But if you want to go deeper a little bit, I also linked a tutorial article below this video where I show you how you can set up PostgreSQL, Python, Pandas, and everything else to this remote server. And in that tutorial, for instance, you will install a desktop application like a terminal or an iTerm or a PuTTY application to your local computer to access your data server. But as I said in this video, I will go with the easiest solution, and that is using the built-in terminal window of DigitalOcean. For that, you will have to click your droplet, and this will work on all operating systems. You just have to go to the top right corner, and just a quick comment here. When I record this video, DigitalOcean surface look like this. They change it every now and then. So if for you it's not exactly how it looks for me, then sorry, but I hope that you will find the buttons. Anyway, point is, click console. And that will open up a terminal window or a command line. And from this point on, make sure that you follow me very thoroughly. So at this point, when you start to type things to the command line, every little character, even the spaces, even the dashes, so every little small things matter. It can break everything if you miss a space, for instance. So watch out that you type everything just as I do on my screen. Okay, so the next thing is that you will have to log into your data server. The user will be root, and the password will be the password that you set up before. I type in my password, you type in your password. And don't worry if you don't see little stars or characters typed in. That's because the command line or the terminal or Ubuntu servers work this way. It's a security thing. Even if you don't see any stars or any characters there, it's there. If you type in, it's there. You just won't see any feedback about it. Anyways, I typed my password. I hit enter. Ah, cool. I typed the right password. And so I'm in. So here we logged into our data server with the root user, and we don't really like to use the root user for anything. So the next step is that I will create a new user for myself, which is not a root user. This is the add user command, and I will type add user Tommy, which is my name. I will have to define a password for it. Again, anything you type here, you won't see any characters or asterisks or stars to show up, but it's there. You have to confirm your password. You can leave these fields empty. Is the information correct? Type yes. Yes. Cool. We have created a new user called Tommy. And I will give this user the so-called sudo privileges. You don't have to know what's that for right now. It's enough if you know that you will need it to set up PostgreSQL. So I will type this usermod -a capital G sudo Tommy. Hit enter. Great. And this is it. Right now we were logged in as root user, and as I said, I don't like to do things as root user, and you shouldn't do it either. And since we have created a new user right now, mine is named Tommy, I will just log out, type exit, and log back in with my new user. We end up on the login screen where we were before, but this time instead of typing root, I will type my new user, Tommy, and my new password, which I won't tell you. You type your own password anyway. And as you can see, the prompt, so the beginning of the line changed. It started with root previously, now it starts with Tommy, which means that this is a different user. And we can start to install PostgreSQL. For that, we will have to update the installation package on Ubuntu with this command sudo apt-get update. We will use, oops, I have to type my password again. So this apt-get package, not sure it's called a package. Anyway, this apt-get will take care of all the installations that we will do in the future. And to make sure it's updated, we will have to run this update command first. I type my password. A little bit of installation. Or actually, it's not installation, it's an update process, but it's happening right now. It's done. And I know this black screen with white characters, it's pretty ugly, but I actually enjoy it. In the terminal, so if you follow the tutorial that I linked where I go through, well, let's say more properly through this process, there in the terminal you will see a bit nicer surface for this. So it's not black screen with white characters, but black screen with colored characters, a little bit more structured, but again, this will be just fine for now. Anyways, just one more step before we actually install Postgres. I will install a simple text editor application. Maybe we will need it. And for that, I will type this sudo apt-get install mc. Oh, I missed an S character here. So guys, this is what I said. If you miss one character, everything breaks. Okay, this time not everything. Sudo apt-get install mc. It will work now. Yes, please install mc. Installation is happening. It took some time, but it's done because I see my prompt again. So the beginning of the line is Tommy at SQL-video-tutorial. And finally, we can start to install PostgreSQL. And this is the most important line. So again, make sure that you type everything correctly. Sudo apt-get, the installation command, install PostgreSQL and PostgreSQL-contrib. Okay, so this one line will install two things, PostgreSQL and PostgreSQL-contrib. Hit enter. Do you want to continue? Yes, please type Y and hit enter. This will take a while, but it will install PostgreSQL. If you see red lines along the way, don't worry too much. This one is just a warning, so everything will work fine regardless. And just like that, we have installed Postgres, but we will have to set a few things. We will have to do some configuration processes so that this works. The first thing is that Postgres created a new user called Postgres on our server, just like we have created the new user. For me, it was Tommy on this server. And first thing first, I will have to log in to this user. For that, I will use the sudo-i-u Postgres command. I logged into the Postgres user. And for now, this is the only user that can run PostgreSQL on this server. And I will do that by typing PSQL. And here we go. We are in Postgres. So the PostgreSQL server is working. If I typed here SQL commands like select everything from blah, 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 it would just work. But we don't have anything on this data server yet. Instead of that, my first actual SQL command will be creating a new user with the create user command. And here I have to specify the name of the user. And this is really important, so don't miss this one. The user that you create here should be the same that you used on your Ubuntu server. So here you will have to type the very same username that you typed after the add user command. For me, it was Tommy. For you, it's whatever you chose. Point is, create user Tommy with password. Here you will have to define a password if you want to, and I want to. So I will add a random password. And don't forget the semicolon at the end of the line. Oh, the password, by the way, if you haven't noticed, it goes between quotation marks, so don't forget that either. Hit enter. Oh, what did I miss? Oh, shoot, sorry. It doesn't go between quotation marks. It goes between apostrophes. Actually, my bad, sorry. Okay, like this. And now it's working. I cleared my screen, but before we log out from Postgres, I want you to do one more thing, which is giving your freshly created user super user privileges by this command, author user Tommy with super user. Again, for you it won't be Tommy, but the username that you have created just before. Cool. And now you can log out from PostgreSQL by typing \q and then type exit, and you will log out from the Postgres user on Ubuntu, and we are back to our original user. And from this point on, you can use this user to log into your PostgreSQL database, running this command psql-u, the username, which is for me Tommy, -t Postgres. We won't do this quite often, maybe most probably only this time, because I do not prefer running SQL commands or queries from the command line, but from an SQL manager tool. But just for fun, let's check this out. So I used my user to log into PostgreSQL, and very quickly, I will actually just copy paste a few lines here. I will create a test table just to make sure that everything works and put a few lines of data into that. Cool. Okay, so I have created a test table, I inserted 2 lines into it, and then I printed it. It works. You can just copy paste just as I did from the article that I linked you with the comments to this video. You can copy paste these comments from there to here, and you can run these lines. But you don't have to do this. This was just a small test. What's more important right now, that you log out from Postgres with the \q command again, and that we quickly run a few configuration commands so that you will be able to access your remote server and your remote PostgreSQL database from your local computer with an SQL manager tool like pgadmin, or in our case, SQL Workbench. For that, you will just have to set 2 things on your server. But the first command that you will have to run is sudo -i-u root, and with that we will log back into our root user, because these settings have to be done with the root user. And the first setting that we will put into the configuration file of PostgreSQL is this listen _ addresses equals apostrophe asterisk apostrophe, and the whole thing goes between quotation marks. So make sure you won't miss anything in this. I know this is a bit complicated and it makes no sense right now, but just make sure that you are doing it correctly. After that, apply these two greater than signs that will push this line that we put here, the listen addresses line, into a file that exists already, and the file is in the etc folder, within that in the PostgreSQL folder, within that in the main folder, within that in the postgresql.com file. And don't worry too much about that. My screen actually broke this line into two lines. It actually still counts one line. It just didn't fit the screen. Maybe for you it's one line. And you know what? I know that this looks very technical and tricky. So again, make sure you don't mistype anything. And I think that maybe it's just better if you copy paste this from the article that I linked in the description. Anyways, this one line that goes into this config file will allow all different IPs to connect to your data server. And this is again not the most secure solution, but since no one knows about your data server, it will be just fine for now. And later on, when you become more advanced with SQL and with server configuration, you can make this more secure. Just hit enter. And the other line is similarly difficult, and I will just go ahead and copy paste it. And this other line that goes into this other configuration file sets again that who can access your database. And so if you are worried about the security here, don't worry too much, because this database is already password secured. So remember, you have just set up a password for your SQL user. And the last command that we will have to type in the command line is sudo /etc/init.d/PostgreSQL restart, which will simply restart our PostgreSQL database, which is important because with that, these new configurations, these new settings will be applied to it. It restarts, and it says, okay, so everything was fine. And we are done with the server-side configurations here. You can just type exit, and close this window. And we are back to the DigitalOcean surface. The good news is that everything that should have been done in the command line is done. And the last thing for this video is to installing SQL Workbench, which is an SQL Manager tool. Again, with that, you will be able to access your remote PostgreSQL database that we have just set up. And I will show you how to install SQL Workbench, but you will have to know that there is another tool called pgadmin 4, which you can access on pgadmin.org. You can download it. It's really easy to set it up, but it's not as good as SQL Workbench. So that's why I will show you SQL Workbench and not pgadmin 4. But, feel free to use pgadmin 4 if you want to. Anyways, I will show you SQL Workbench. And for SQL Workbench, first thing first, you will have to download Java 8 Plus, which you can access on Java. It's free. java.com/n/download. Well, you will just have to click here, download it. It's pretty straightforward, and for me, it's already set up, so I won't show it to you. You need Java 8 Plus. The next step is downloading SQL Workbench itself, which you can do on sql-workbench.eu/download-archive.html. And it's not an accident that I won't download the latest version of it, because for my tutorials and just in general, I found that the best version that fits, at least for my needs, the best version is not the latest one, but the build 124. So please download this build 124. If you are on Mac, you can download the Mac package. If you are on Windows or Linux, you can download the all platforms version. If you click download, it will download it. And it will be downloaded to your downloads folder. You have to unzip it. Here's the file itself. You can run it from here. Just in case, I will put it in my applications folder. And once it's there, you will just have to double click it, or well, for the first time, and sometimes this happens on Windows, Linux, and Mac too, you cannot run it. So in that case, just right click it and click the open command. On Windows, you can try to run it as an administrator. But once you have opened it, you will get a connection window. If you don't worry. You can open it from the File Connect window. And you will get back here. As you can see, for me, there is a default group folder where I store all my other connection profiles. But for you, you will just have to create a new connection profile. And so this is the part where things get a little bit tricky, not too tricky, but I will drive you through. So you have to choose a name for your server. This can be anything. For me, it will be YouTube server because I've created this for this YouTube video. The trick is that for the drivers, you will have to choose a PostgreSQL driver, but by default, you won't have this on your computer. So you will have to go back and download this from here, gdbc.postgresql.org/download.html current. I will add all these links in the article that I mentioned before. So if you go to the current version part, you will see that when I record this video, my current version is 4.2, driver 42.2.18. For you, this can be different if you watch this video next week or next year or 10 years later compared to when I record this video. The point is that you should just download the latest version. I will keep this. It doesn't cause any harm. So it downloaded next to SQL Workbench. This is it. And this will be a driver. So you don't have to run this file, but you will have to put somewhere where you can make sure that you won't delete it. Okay. So I don't know. I will create a new folder called don't delete. Maybe this is not the smartest solution, but anyway, you get the point. So here's my file. And when I choose the driver, I should go to Manage Drivers and go to PostgreSQL. And most probably you will see here either a red file that something's missing or nothing. But in all cases, you just have to click this little folder icon here. And I will just go to the folder where I downloaded this driver. It's the don't delete folder, and I will import this file. Okay, here's my driver imported. I don't want to use Adabus. I will just go ahead and select PostgreSQL, and it should work. And for the URL, I will have to add my server's connection details. So this GDBC and PostgreSQL parts will be the same. I don't have to change this, but I will have to change the host to my server's IP address. And if you remember, we go back to DigitalOcean, my server came with an IP address, which is here. So this IPv4 address is the IP address that I need. I copy it and I paste it right to the place of host. The port will be 5432. This is the default port for PostgreSQL, so it will be the same for you as well. And the default database will be Postgres. So once again, the URL will be gdbc://PostgreSQL:/ your server's IP address, the port, which is always 5432/Postgres, which is the name of the database. And the only two things left that you will have to define here is the username, which in my case was Tommy, and the password that you set for your SQL user. So that went between the apostrophes, if you recall that part of the video. I will still not tell you my password. It comes here, and all should be fine. Just in case, I will save my connection details, and I click OK, and hopefully I don't get an error message. Nice. So I've connected to my database, to my freshly set up PostgreSQL database. Here's the test table that I have created, but don't worry, you can create new tables as well. I will go to the statement window, which is for typing in SQL queries, and I will just select everything from test. There are the two lines that I have created, but from this point on, you can create any tables you want. I will get back to this in my full SQL tutorial, but just in case, something like this, name, text. I'll just copy paste this here. Like this. And I have created a table with this other command. I'm just copy pasting here, so don't worry about it. I'm just testing my database. I insert new values into it. Okay, and test results. Select everything from test results. Here's another table in my database that I have just created right now. But don't worry too much about these last steps. I mean, you can copy paste this too from the article that I shared in the description and where I show the code base of this video. But I have just played around and I will explain this in detail in another video. The important thing for now is that your server is ready, and from this point on, you can use this simple, real-life-like PostgreSQL database for learning and practicing SQL. Soon enough, after this video, I will upload my full SQL for data analysis tutorial video to this YouTube channel, so make sure that you subscribe now. That will be a longer, probably a 1 or 2 hour long video tutorial, but I guarantee that it will be worth the time. I will show you how you can create SQL tables, how you can run simpler and more advanced queries, and we will start from scratch. So if you are a beginner in SQL right now, you will like it a lot. By the way, who knows, when you are watching this video, maybe it's already uploaded, and if so, you will definitely find it linked everywhere around this video, top right corner, description, end cards, and so on. Anyways, this is the end of this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, or even better, a comment. If you want to learn more about SQL, you have quite a few options. You can go ahead and check out my free SQL tutorial articles on the Data36 blog. These articles guide you through SQL from the absolute beginner to the intermediate level. I have also created a free SQL cheat sheet that you can download by subscribing to my newsletter at data36.com/newsletter. And if you want to be absolutely confident with SQL, you can check out my 7-day 0 to intermediate level SQL online course as well, where next to the tutorials, I added many tasks for practicing as well. And just as I said, the SQL tutorial YouTube video is coming soon too. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm Tommy Mester from data36.com. Until next time.